Hey everybody, it's John Lone King, and I am here with another episode of my podcast, From Profits to Properties, where I help you with business tactics that can help grow your business to profits beyond your expectations. And then I help you to take those profits and turn them into long-term wealth through investing in real estate. So whether you're a business owner or not, you're going to get a lot out of the second half. And for you who are either business owners or entrepreneurs or salespeople, you're going to get a lot out of both parts of this. So today we're going to dive in with another episode about AI. Yes, I know I talk about AI a lot, but I think there's a lot about AI that is changing, and I want to make sure that my subscribers are staying on top of it because it's absolutely impacting not just you in the business world, but also in the real estate game. And one of the biggest game changers that just happened is that ChatGPT just created connectors, and those connectors do make connections to other apps like Zillow. Now, I want you to think about this kind of like the App Store on your iPhone or your Android App Store, Google Play App Store. I want you to think about how you've got an operating system that brought in apps that are embedded into that system. And if we rewind back to, I don't know what year, early 2000s, when the iPhone first came out, the number one mobile device was actually the BlackBerry. Anybody have a BlackBerry anymore? Like, they don't exist anymore. Yet BlackBerry was the number one because that is what everybody used, and it was the best tool at the time. And I think what changed with the iPhone and with the Android was the introduction of the App Store. And ChatGPT is doing the exact same thing. And I believe it's going to be a huge game changer. And you as a business owner and you as an investor in real estate need to think about, how does this change impact me, both in my business and how I use AI for buying real estate? So let's kind of break those two things down. First of all, let's understand connectors. Connectors, again, embed an app into ChatGPT and make them very intertwined. Now, this is different than just a web search that a lot of AI tools can do right now. ChatGPT, Grok, Gemini, Anthropic, which is Claude. They all have tools that allow you to search the internet. But this is actually bringing that tool into the ecosystem. It's like using Safari on your iPhone or Chrome on your iPhone versus using a native app. It's a whole different experience. If I want to go on Facebook, I can open up Safari on my iPhone and go to the Facebook page, or I can go to the Facebook app. And things work better when you're using the native app. And that is what's changing. And so I want you to continue to evolve your thinking about AI beyond just an assistant that's sitting next to you that you can ask questions of, and beyond just a deeper method of doing Google search. Because that's what a lot of people are doing, is they're saying, hey, John, I use it for two things. I use it for Google search, and I use it as kind of a co-pilot, an assistant sitting next to me that is going to give me help when I need it, help me brainstorm and think of ideas. And I want you to start looking at, how can I actually integrate this into my life, and what activities can I have that I take from my daily activity and transition it to how to use AI. Give you a simple example of something that I do. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I read a lot of books. I listen to books on audio. And so I have learned that a good way to get the content out of a podcast, if there are actionable things that I want to take from that podcast, is I take a screenshot of the podcast and then I load it into Google Gemini. Why Google Gemini? Because most podcasts are also streamed onto YouTube. Google Gemini is owned by Google, which also owns YouTube. So they're tightly integrated. And the point of today's show really is about how these tight integrations help you to do things better in your life and in your business. So I take a screenshot of the podcast I'm listening to. I put it into Google Gemini and I say, find this podcast episode on YouTube and give me a thorough breakdown of the actionable steps on this podcast that I can implement into my business today. And press go. And then I walk away and I come back later and it already knows a lot about my business. It knows what I do for a living. It knows that I'm a mortgage banker. It knows that I have a podcast that I do. It knows that I'm a branch manager of a mortgage company. And so all of these facets of my business, it's already got built into memory. And so now I'm taking that information from that podcast and applying it to my business. So I would imagine down the road, there's going to be a YouTube connector that's going to have YouTube more tightly integrated than it already is. Now, there might not be one to ChatGPT because you have the fighting, the competition for market share that is happening between the big five. Now, the big five AI providers, and I want to encourage you to think about each of them and what their different benefits might be to you. The big five, ChatGPT, right now, very much hands down number one as far as user base and really as far as features. I think ChatGPT overall is the winner. Then you've got Grok, you've got Google Gemini, you've got Claude, and you've got Copilot. Okay, so each of them are competing against one another, kind of like you had Blu-ray discs and laser discs, I think at the time, or maybe it was just DVDs and laser discs. Either way, VHS versus Betamax. If you don't know what that is, Google it. Don't Google it. Look it up in AI. But it's a fight for which one of these are going to win. Now, that doesn't mean there's only going to be one left. But the truth is, there's very few search engines left. Google has taken over search. Even though years ago there were many different search engines, they've pretty much consolidated down and there's very, very few that are left over. The same fight is happening right now in AI. But you're going to see each of the top five come up with different integrations, different features. A lot of them are going to be copied, but a lot of them can't. So you're going to have integrated features such as Grok. Its superpower is its connection to the X platform, formerly known as Twitter. So if you want current events, if you want current information, Grok is the place to go because it has literally the most up to the second information because it's pulling it all from the feed in X, which is being fed by users every second of the day. And so if you want to know what happened 10 minutes ago, Grok's the place to go. It's going to have the most accurate information. And you have to know these different tools. And you have to know how to use them in your business and use them in your professional, in your personal life. One of the things that I really want to talk today about is the example of Zillow. So Zillow is an app that is within the connections tab of ChatGPT. Now you might think, John, I could just go to Zillow. You can. But what this does is it marries the chocolate and the peanut butter of having an AI search tool that intuitively knows who you are, and it thinks beyond the question that you're asking. There's actually a book I read years ago called QBQ. It's the question behind the question. As a human, I understand when somebody calls me and professionally and says, hey, John, I have a question about blank. I have a question about interest rate. Okay, well, I understand there's the question really behind that isn't where are rates at today? You're not asking me that. You're trying to decide what's my payment going to be. You're trying to decide how much cash do I need to put out of pocket to buy a house at this price that has the monthly payment that I'm looking for. Is home ownership an option for me? Or can I refinance and save money? That's the question behind the question. Now you gotta be careful. This is a sales technique. You gotta be careful that you might know what the question behind the question is, but you can't answer it until you answer the question. People won't listen to your question behind the question if you didn't answer the question they asked. Now you might say, hey, in order to give you an answer to that question, I need to address these other things. But don't just skip it and ignore and pretend they didn't ask you because you know better, because you know the question behind the question. Now I'm back on topic here. The fact of using connectors, using AI, it understands what your intent is. So if you go into Google, or not Google, just go into Zillow and you say, hey, I'm looking for a 4-bedroom, 3-bath home between $350,000 and $550,000 in this city. It will not show you homes that are a penny over $550,000 because it is a literal search term. It is criteria that says, don't go below this, don't go above this, stay within these guardrails. But having AI do that search for you, you can tell it, hey, look, I want something that's going to end up being around a $4,000 a month payment, plus or minus, with $100,000 out of pocket. I feel like that's going to cap me at about $550,000, but I'm willing to go higher for the perfect home. Show me what's out there, and it's going to do a way better job of finding what you're looking for. Now, I don't want you to misunderstand and say this is now meaning I don't need a real estate agent. You do need a real estate agent. A real estate agent has never, for a long time, their value has not been how to find the home. Okay, the internet changed that completely. So the real estate agent's not there to help you figure out how to find the home. They're helping you through all of the details of the transaction. They're helping you with the actual negotiation with the other side. There is strategy that can be used. There are different loan programs that can be used under different circumstances to help you accomplish your goals. And having a great realtor really helps you to figure that part out. But AI is nowhere near close to replacing that. But when it comes to search, when it comes to what people do anyway, which is you search on Google, you search on Zillow before you ever talk to a real estate agent, before you ever talk to a lender. I understand that. At least use the version that's built into AI. Because if you got the version that's built into AI, then you're now giving it your thoughts instead of your exact criteria. Because the truth is sometimes you don't know what you really want. And so AI knows enough about you. And the more you use it, the more it's going to understand about you. And so imagine applying that to any number of different areas. One of the other connectors that I use a lot right now is the connector to Canva. So I create a lot of content, and actually my team does a lot of the creation of the content for me. But I've been playing with this because previously I would go in and I'd say, hey, the person who does my thumbnails is on vacation this week. So I'm going to ask ChatGPT to create a thumbnail and come up with an idea of a thumbnail. And then I'm going to ask maybe Google Gemini, because it's got the Nano Banana option, to be able to, that's just a feature within Google Gemini. But both of those do a really good job of images. But once I have the image, if it's not exactly what I want, I'm in trouble. I can ask it to change something, but the chances of it changing it exactly the way I want it, it's hit and miss. But lately what I've done is I've said, hey, I'm going to use the Canva connector. So I click the button on the Canva connector because I've connected it to my Canva account. And I say, here's the images I want you to create, or here's the thought of what I want you to create. And it gives me multiple, 3, 4, 5 different, completely different options for an image. And then when I click on it, I can send it into Canva and it's fully editable. Now, when it put words in there and I want it bigger, I can just drag and drop. Or if it put a placeholder in there because I didn't say what I wanted the tagline to be, and now I want to change it, it's drag and drop. It's fully editable. To me, that's a great example of mixing the chocolate and the peanut butter, putting both of them together, because Canva allows me to edit directly, not give directions to make the edit, because that's what most people do with AI. And Nano Banana within Google Gemini is really good at taking instructions. When you say, hey, make the font on the wording up top bigger. Great, bigger, but how much bigger? Like it went way bigger. You would have to know what the font was right now. And then you'd have to tell it to change the size to a different number. Versus if I'm in Canva, I can literally click to make it a little bigger. I can click to rearrange the words so that the sentence makes sense. It is a pet peeve of mine to have a sentence that's like 5 words and 4 of them are on the first line and the 5th one's on the second line. Like, hey, if it's 5 words, it should be 3 and 2 or 2 and 3. And have it make sense. You don't do 1 word and then 4, or 4 words and then 1, or put all 5 on the same line. But that's an example where that would be hard to communicate unless I knew the exact details of how to say it. But if I'm using AI to generate 5 different scenarios, and then I pick the one I like, I can send it to Canva because I'm using the Canva connection. So there's lots of ways that this can be used professionally, lots of ways this can be used personally. And I really, really think that if you start thinking this way, you can find ways to become more profitable in your business through being more efficient, through getting more done. Now, I haven't laid anybody off. As a matter of fact, I hired 2 more people in the last 30 days. I am very, very busy. I have a huge optimism about the future, and I expect to use AI more and more in my business to help me get more and more done with the people that I have. And I'm adding more people so I can get an even exponentially greater amount of work done. So it is about finding ways to complement your current business with AI. And yes, sometimes it means, hey, I don't need that person doing that thing anymore. Hopefully I can find something else for them to do. But in a small business, you often have people wearing multiple hats, and AI lets them focus on the hats that are the most important, delegate the hats that aren't as important. Now, if you're thinking about, well, John, how does this apply to real estate and building wealth in real estate? There are many, many scenarios. One of my recent clients and I went through and did an analysis of all of their portfolio of properties. So we went through every property that they owned. We did an analysis of having it run, hey, pull me up market values on these properties. Let's look at interest rates and amortization term and rental income. And it did a pro forma, and we did deep research on it. And we had it basically do a full research outline. And then we summarized that into an audio podcast. So we did the deep research part in ChatGPT, and then we plugged that into Google Gemini, and we allowed Google Gemini to create an audio overview of the content. So it basically walked us through in 15 minutes everything about his properties. He's going to redo that every single year. He's going to run that every year to do an analysis of his properties. Where am I at in rental income compared to market rents on every one of my properties? Where do my opportunities lie? Where do I need to worry about insurance costs rising or property taxes or any number of different things? Where are the demographics within each of these communities, and which ones should I focus on either selling and doing a 1031 exchange or buying more within that community? And what other communities am I not thinking about that I need to be? All of these things, AI can help you do an analysis that you never would have done before. And if you're a first-time investor, we can use it together to help you run the numbers. We can create an app together that can give you the information so that you can run the numbers on a property and say, hey, does this property make sense based upon, go connect to Zillow and do the research to find out what the rents are for that sized home in that neighborhood, and then take that information out of Zillow and run a calculation to determine my cash flow and whether property A, B, or C makes the most sense. There's a lot you can do with AI, and I'd love to help guide you to do it. And so if there's anything I can do to help you, please feel free to reach out. My contact information is in the description. And I really, really appreciate you sharing my podcast with anybody you know that could use this information. I am a small podcaster. I'm never going to be a big one, but I want to grow my audience as much as I possibly can. I believe I'm giving valuable information. I hope you feel the same. And I'd be honored if you would leave me a review, and you would also forward this to 2 people that you know today that you think will get value out of this podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Hope you have an absolutely wonderful day, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.